Have you ever felt like you were slowly becoming invisible inside your own home? Not because anyone directly says it, not because someone looks at you with disdain, but because little by little, it feels like no one actually sees you anymore. That's how it all began. Just another ordinary Saturday. The kind where the clock ticks a little too quietly and the house hums with routine. Daniel had his friends. Over again, same crew as always. Mark with his booming laugh, Jordan with his observant silence, and Dow, always smooth talking and too clever for his own good. They lounged in the living room like they always did, cracking open beers, tossing out old jokes like recycled memories. I'm laughing like the world hadn't changed since college. And me. I did what I always do. I laid out snacks, chilled the drinks, made sure everything was tidy, presentable, and comfortable. I played the hostess, the quiet caretaker, the background, presence that made everything flow without drawing attention. But that day, something was off. It started small, so small I might have missed it if I hadn't been so used to being ignored at a glance. Not long, not dramatic. Just a second too long. A flicker of something in someone's eyes that lingered where it shouldn't have. Like it. Caught on to something unspoken, something I hadn't dared to name, even in my own mind. Then another look followed. And this time, it came with a faint smile. The kind that doesn't return quickly to the television. The kind that holds, but it wasn't aimed at Daniel. No, it was me they were looking at Dot, and for the first time in what felt like ages, I didn't feel like I was fading into the furniture. I wasn't the tired woman always wiping counters or folding socks or chasing after dust. I was noticed. Not in a way that felt threatening or crude, just acknowledged. Recognized, seen Dot, and that God help me, that stirred something inside me, something quiet, something dangerous. Because when the person who promised to see you forever stops even looking, when your name becomes something they say between yawns or over sports scores, when affection turns into habit and habit becomes absence, one unexpected glance feels like breathing after holding your breath for far too long. I didn't ask for it. I didn't encourage it, but I noticed it. And once noticed, it never quite leaves you. That's where it all began, not with a kiss, or a touch or a word, but with a look. A single look that whispered through the silence of my everyday life and made me pause long enough to ask myself, how long have I been this lonely? And has anyone at all, noticed? My name's Claire. I'm 32. I've been married for 8 years, living in the same house for nearly as long. 2 stories, quiet suburb, hedges trimmed just right, neighbors who wave from driveways but never stop to talk. The kind of house you drive past and think, that must be a happy home. And maybe once upon a time it was Dot now. It just feels like a set, clean. Still, Daniel works in finance. Long hours. Longer meetings. Always another client, another project, another deal on the edge of closing. He used to come home grinning, arms open, voice full of warmth. These days, it's a muttered hey, a brief kiss, and a retreat into whatever screen is closest. Sometimes it's the laptop. Usually it's the TV. We used to talk, really talk. I'd ask about his day, and he'd ask about mine. We'd laugh over burnt dinners and stupid commercials. Now, even our conversations feel scripted like lines from a play neither of us remembers auditioning for. And I've tried. Lord, I've tried. I've changed the way I dress, learned new recipes, asked about his work, his coworkers, even that. Stupid fantasy football league. All I get are nods, shrugs, mumbled, it's fine. It's like I've become the soundtrack to his life, familiar, safe, unremarkable Dot, and then there are those weekend hangouts. Every other Saturday, like clockwork, Mark, loud and funny. Jordan, the quiet type who pays attention even when you think he's not. Dow, all charm and intuition. They've been around since college, saw Daniel propose, toasted us at the wedding, called us couple goals before we even knew what that meant. But lately, when they come over, I've noticed something's different. It's in the way their eyes follow me, not bold, not crude, just aware, like they're remembering who I used to be or wondering who I am now. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I'm not 22 anymore. I live in leggings and oversized tees. I haven't had a full night's sleep since the twins were born. Why would anyone look at me like that? But then it kept happening. Mark, pausing mid-conversation as I bent to pick something up. Jordan, his eyes catching mine when I laughed. Dow, smirking slightly and saying, "You've been working out?" Like he already knew the answer. I know how that sounds. But until you felt invisible, truly invisible, you don't know how loud it is to be seen. They weren't being inappropriate. They weren't leering, but they noticed me, and I didn't want it to stop. Not really. Then came that Sunday. Warm and golden, the kind of afternoon that smells like grilled meat and sunscreen. Daniel suggested a barbecue, like he was doing me a favor. By noon, he was already camped out on the couch, drink in hand, eyes locked on the screen. So I set it all up myself. Chairs by the pool, cooler packed, napkins folded. I wore a yellow sundress, not new, not flashy, just comfortable. But the heat made it cling in places I hadn't expected. They arrived just after 2. Mark was loud, laughing already. Jordan nodded hello, eyes lingering a second too long. Dow with his smooth smile, always just this side of knowing. They greeted Daniel, swapped jokes, and made their way outside, where I was by the cooler, reaching for a bag of ice. Need a hand with the drinks? Mark called out. Sure, I said, without thinking. They followed me into the kitchen, and for a moment, the air felt different, heavier. Like the walls were listening, I handed Jordan a tray of sodas. Then I heard it, low, close, almost under breath. He's lucky. A quiet laugh followed, quick and sharp, like someone couldn't help it. I froze. Not because it was loud or crude, it wasn't, but because of how it landed. Solid, heavy, like it meant more than just a compliment. He's lucky. Lucky to have me. Lucky I didn't flinch. Lucky none of them had tried anything more. I didn't turn around. I didn't ask who said it. I didn't crack a joke or shoot a look. I just kept moving, pretending I hadn't heard what I absolutely did. But in the silence that followed, I felt it. Their eyes, not just one pair, all of them. Not sharp, not hungry, but watching. And in that moment, something shifted. In them. In me. In the very air between us. That line, the one you swear you'll never cross. It doesn't shout when it breaks. It whispers. It tiptoes. It shows up in a sundress that fits just a little too well on the wrong afternoon. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was still. Daniel snored softly beside me, one arm across the bed, but never reaching me. His back turned, like always. I lay there staring up at the ceiling, hearing those 2 words again and again. He's lucky. I don't know why they stuck. Maybe because no one had said anything like that in years. Maybe because, for once, I didn't feel invisible. Maybe because I didn't want to be. It wasn't the first time I'd been complimented, not even the thing I've ever heard. But maybe it was the first time in a long time that it actually landed, like it had somewhere to go. Was it wrong to feel flattered? Was it wrong to want to feel flattered? I turned onto my side, fasting Donald. His mouth was slightly open, breathing steady. His hand twitched a little like he was dreaming. I wonder at what about work numbers? Did he show up in Toe's dreams anymore? When you did he last of him? Look at me like that, like the way Mark did or Jordan or Ordo. It wasn't about wanting them. It wasn't lust. It wasn't some secret desire to betray him. It was just a miss being wanted, not for chores, not for errands, not for dinner or dry cleaning or the kids' school forms. I missed being seen. The next morning, I caught myself in the mirror. While brushing my teeth, I stood a little longer than usual, tilted, my chin turned slightly. Had my hips always curved like that was my smile, always this tired. I opened my drawer and swapped my usual hoodie for a fitted top. Didn't think too hard about it, didn't plan it, just slipped it on. Not for them or so, I told myself. With that week, he started checking my reflection wear, touching up my lip gloss before heading. Ginto, the kitchen adding a spray of perfume before making lunch standing just a little taller. When I heard their voices coming up the driveway, and each time I did, a part off whispered, "You're not chasing anything. You just want to feel live again because there is a special kind of grief that comes from being forgotten while still being held." Daniel didn't do anything wrong-headed and hurt me. D-I-D-N, single quotes, T screamed, didn't cheat. He just stopped seeing me. And when someone else does, even for a second, that second can feel like oxygen to a woman slow drowning in her own home. I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't trying hellfire, but I can't lie and say Fistbark did feel good. Didn't feel like the version of me I used to know. The one who used to turn heads, not just serve plates. The one who used to laugh without lowering her voice. The one was to feel wanted without feeling guilty for it. And I think that's where real confusion started, because if buying scene feels wrong, why does it feel so much like home? It started small, apping on my phone late one night. I was laying in bed. Daniel beside me were just asleep, mouth slightly open, Remetastal in his hand. The TV flickered blue light across the room. I turned over checkered screen Instagram. A message request from Mark, just 5 words. "You look a damning yesterday." No emoji, no punctuation. Just that my thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't open it, didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. I told myself it was harmless, not a compliment to gain just words. Just one of his friends by friendly. But the next day, I found myself checking his profile. Wondering, I was thinking of Melon. He posted the playlist to his story reading into things I never used to notice. And then came the night Daniel fell asleep on the couch again. The game had ended. He'd snored softly, half a beer left warm on the table. Mark was still there, sitting in the armchair. The only light was from the TV. I came in to grab a plate. Our eyes met. He didn't flinch, didn't shift, didn't pretend to look away. He held it. I felt something in me lock up like he is a credit name. It grip. I didn't smile, didn't frown. I just stood there letting silence stretch. Too long, and it turned and walked out quickly. But my heart didn't slow down for hours. The next hangout I wore the yellow sundress out game. The one from the barbecue. The one I hadn't worn in years until that day. Daniel didn't notice. Had kissed me on the cheek. Said, "Did we get an out charcoal?" That was it. But vanished I felt it the second I stepped outside the boss. The way Mark's laugh cut short the way. Jordan blinked twice before looking down. The way you muttered something in, then cleared his throat. Their ice burned through me, and he hated it. I hated how aware I was of Fevery's step. It took every movement, every glance they threw my way when they thought Daniel was looking. But I craved it, like, so who's been starved craves anything with taste that night. I couldn't eat much. My stomach was too tight to full of guilt and some tingles. I didn't have a name for I help but clean up loaded dishes, laughed at their jokes, but I felt their eyes. I felt their shift every time I passed by, every time I bent slightly to pick something up. And then they asked not with words, no one said it out loud, but in the way Jordan lingered by the sink as too long in, the way Mark brushed me hand when heppes me the plates, and way to stood aft door of bead litter than he needed to. They didn't need to say it. The question was there, and for the first time I didn't want my answer, would be Daniel had a conference out. Of town tonight's a huddle booked by his company. He left tearly Friday morning with a suitcase, a quick pick on me cheek, and distracted. I'll call you later. He didn't that night. The house felt too quiet to still. I lit a candle-powered a glass of wine, put on a playlist I hadn't listened to in years, low, sultry songs that used to make me feel something. And then the knocked, it was Mark, then Jordan. Then just checking in, they said smiling casually. I should have said no. I should have made an excuse, but I didn't. They came in, poured more wine. We sat on the patio, same one, Daniel. Never uses laughter floated between us, but underneath it's anything goes. Hum, tension, curiosity, electric. No one wanted to name. The music was low steady. A song came on slow, rhythmic, familiar. I stood half tipsy, half lost and began to swing, not for onion, not for attention, just for myself. But I felt at their eyes. They didn't find Itanamore, didn't glance away. They watched and I didn't stop, dancing my head tilted back. The night breeze moved right through my hair. I laughed softly, almost forgetting where I was or who I was supposed to be. Then I heard it. I doesn't see you. Why should you be thin waiting? The words slid through the air like a dare. I paused, the wine glass still in my hand, my heart pounding louder than the music. I walked away to a kitchen, didn't say a word, just stepped inside and leaned against the counter. I could have told them to leave. I could have ended the night right there. But I didn't. I stood in the glow of the light, breathing, listening, and then footsteps, not hurried, not hesitant, just certain. He came and slowly stopped a few feet from. No words. The silence between us buzzed louder than any sound looked at him. Not like Daniel, not like he has been distracted by spreadsheets and headlines. He looked at me like I was aim thing to be remembered. And then his hand touched my wrist soft, warm, intentional. I didn't pull away for as everything slowed down. The candle light flickered. The music faded. Time stood still, nothing more happened. No gas, no whispered promises, no betrayal in physical sense. But in that touching, that look, something broke. It didn't go further than that. But it went pharaoh to. Never forget after that night, everything looked the same. But nothing felt the same. I cleaned the kitchen like always did, washed the glasses, wiped counters, took out the trash, but my hands were trembling. I kept thinking it was just a touch, nothing. More no one saw, no one knew. So why did it feel like something inside me had unraveled? The next weekend, Daniel invited them over again. Said it without looking up from his phone. Guys are coming by Saturday. You good with that? I nodded. But Saturday come and I couldn't do it. I stayed upstairs. Said I had a headache. Turned off the lights in our room. Listened to their voices through the floorboards. The water, the clinking off bottles, the scrape of chairs against patio. I couldn't face them any off them. Not Jordan. Not to especially not the one who touched Miras. Like he wasting to remember what warm felt. Like I thought hiding would help. Thought they would pass, but it clung to McLeod and invisible didn't knock gently on the door at some point. You okay? He asked. I paused before answering just long enough for my voice to sound even. Yeah, I gestured. He didn't press, but after. That some meth in him shifted too. He didn't ask again. Didn't check, just stop at noticing altogether. I was sitting on the couch a few days later, flipping through a book I hadn't touched in months. One I kept on the shelf in the corner of the living room, and there it was tucked at the pages. A folded piece of paper. I opened it, still the most beautiful thing you'll never see. Known handwriting I could swear by, but it knew my chest tightened. My fingers shook. He didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked to the sink, lit a match, and held the edge of the note to the flame, watched it curl dark and disappear. But few words stayed not on the paper, not inside me. Daniel never found out, never asked, but he became colder, more radiant, like something between us had eaten. Neither of us wanted to look at Buddy. He stopped touching me, stopped kissing me. Good night. stopped asking if I was okay. And I stopped at volunteering. Truth. I thought nothing happened, that everything changed. It wasn't about theme. It never really was Dot, it was about what I became. When it stopped being seen, when it stopped being touched with intention, when words stopped feeling warm, when my presence became routine like a lamp in corner. Always there, always on, but noon really noticing the light. I used to think affairs happened in hotel rooms behind closed doors with lipstick stains and leaves. But now I know they happen in glances and unspoken thoughts in the pace between what you say and what you really feel. I didn't cheat, not infatuate people to find it, but something in me wondered, not because I was reckless, not because he wanted to hurt anyone, but because I was hungry for something I couldn't name. Connection, such a moment that reminded me I still mattered. I started asking myself questions. I wasn't ready to answer, what is a marriage supposed to feel like after 8 years? Is this a quite separate screens? I love you say more out of habit than heat. Is this how people slip away? Not with shouting, not with slammed doors, just silence. We are read out to fear betrayal of the body, but no one warns you about the betrayal offer. Jetting of being forgotten, the off emotional infidelity. It lingers, it stains. It's the kind of that you can't confess because there's nothing to confess. No evidence, just Mary is often looked at like you were something worth pausing for. And I kept asking myself, what kind of woman does that make? And what does it say about me that I wanted to be wanted? I didn't want a new life. I didn't want Samuel's last name. I didn't want Askindle. I just wanted to feel like it still existed. Like I could still stop time for someone, even if just for Asakan I wanted to. They desired. But I didn't want to be disposable. And maybe that's the hardest part, realizing that even though you stayed, some part of you still left. Have you ever crossed the lane? Not because y'all were cruel, but because you were in and out of desire, but out of absent countage that even a flicker of fat and felt like rescue. I didn't set out to betray anyone. I didn't wake up wanting to hurt him. But the truth is, in Metamessu, don't run towards someone else. You just stopped trying to hold together the space between you and the person while stopped noticing would. I have stopped it if someone had seen me, first stouched my hand differently, said my name. Like it mattered, would I take it back? I knew Theach wouldn't. Go away just because it stayed quiet. I don't know, beauty, do you know this if you've ever felt that ache theon? You can't name the kinder hides in your chest when everyone thinks you're fine. Drop your truth in comments, no judgment, no shame name. Just release it, Dot, and if this story stirred something in you, if it made you remember a version of yourself you thought was long gone, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The next one might feel even closer to home every day. I fold laundry insolence. His shirt is still here, thin with the faint smell of cedar, and aftershave, I haven't had the courage to throw it away. My husband still smiles at him, just not with his eyes. And mid-order she draws pictures of familiar little stick figures holding hands, but in every drawing there's always one standing just outside the circle that some people break vows with their bodies. I broke mine with my silence, I stayed, but not a lot of me.